kicking off in the NBA. We're going to look at the Knicks and the Pacers series. We're all tied up here, 2-2 after the absolute beatdown that the Pacers put on the Knicks in Game 4 last night, 121-89, a couple days ago. So Tom Thibodeau, for one, is not blaming this loss on the absence of OG Anunoby, but the record tells a different story, right, guys? Knicks are 26-5 with OG this season, and they are just 13-16 without him. So, Larry, I'm going to start with you on this one. We've seen the series odds really flip here, right? Because Knicks were overwhelming favorites to start things off. Now we've seen that kind of change. Does the absence of OG affect the way that you're going to bet the series?
Yeah, it means everything, Katie. And listing him questionable seems very optimistic, given he's only doing work in the pool. I don't think he's coming back this series. And Pascal Siakam sure enjoyed the absence of OG Anunoby, shooting 16 of 23 in the last two games after not doing much in the first two games. And I think the Pacers are going to win this series, primarily because the Knicks are just so thin with all the injuries and the minutes that Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson have played, but also because of what Rick Carlisle did after the first two games, putting Aaron Nesmith, a much bigger body, 6'6" defender, on Jalen Brunson, and also bringing help to slow down Jalen Brunson. He was 9 of 27 with Nesmith guarding him in the last two games. So I think the Pacers are going to get it done because the Knicks are just so thin and so banged up.
I'm right there with you, Larry. I think it's fascinating to watch the market movement, though, across the games of this series. You look at the next game coming up here, Knicks just a 2.5-point favorite on their home floor. When you can account for home court advantage, that implies that the Pacers are a better team on a neutral court, and I tend to agree with it. We've seen this series as high as 7.5 in terms of a spread in Madison Square Garden. It's the depth. They've got no depth. The Pacers actually have a ton of depth. So now you're relying on essentially a 40-point night from Jalen Brunson to be able to play a one-possession basketball game. If he doesn't pour in 40 points, they're going to lose this game by 5, 6, 7 points, multiple possessions. So while the Knicks, they have been a fantastic team, not having OG Anunoby is huge. Having a banged-up Jalen Brunson needing to score 40 points just to be competitive, not a recipe for success. I think Indiana wins this series.
And I agree with everything that Mike and Larry both stated, Katie. This has been just a fascinating matchup, both stylistically and then even off the court. And what I mean by that is you have two teams that are polar opposites of each other as far as their play style is concerned. One team in the Pacers like to play very up-tempo. The Knicks like to grind their opponents down. And then we're looking at the minute allocations as well. This Pacers team has tremendous depth. They play a 9 or 10 man rotation, whereas the Knicks lean heavily on their starters, and it's really starting to cost them. OG Anunoby is a massive loss. He's their best perimeter defender. He's their second or third most consistent scorer besides Jalen Brunson and maybe Dante DiVincenzo as well. I thought Mike hit the nail on the head saying with Brunson, they'll need a 40-point performance just to be competitive. I will say he is an X factor in the sense that he's still the best player in the series, and he is shown capable of putting the team on his back. But I do favor Indiana just because of the depth and just because of the injuries to the Knicks at this point.
Hard to argue with anything that you fellas said, but I will say that optimism, prop stars, makes me, as a person with a Knicks and 6 ticket, feel a little bit better. But yes, with the injuries, with Brunson not being 100%, it is looking quite bad.